Advancement in lung cancer research has provided greater insights into the disease, allowing for the development of new treatments, which can provide improved outcomes for people living with lung cancer. Despite this, lung cancer remains amongst the highest contributor to cancer-related deaths in Europe, claiming almost 1 in every 5 of all cancer-related deaths. It is well known that early diagnosis is an important step towards improving survival, outcomes, and quality of life. However, the majority of lung cancer diagnoses are very often made at a late stage, when the disease has spread to another part of the body, thus impacting survival. This is due in part to a lack of awareness of lung cancer symptoms, as well as risk factors linked to the disease among both the general population and healthcare professionals. Additionally, the lack of systematic lung cancer screening across Europe is contributing to late diagnosis. Although lung cancer has been traditionally linked with a history of smoking, it is important to understand that you don't need to be someone who has a history of smoking to be at risk of lung cancer. It is known that exposure to certain substances, a genetic predisposition, and environmental pollution can potentially increase the risk of developing lung cancer. If you have been regularly exposed to any of the following risk factors, it may be worth having a chat with your doctor. Smoking and secondhand smoke. Exposure to radon. Exposure to asbestos. Cancer-causing agents in the workplace, for example, radioactive ores, inhaled chemicals, or diesel exhaust. Arsenic in drinking water. Previous radiation therapy to the lungs. Air pollution. Personal or family history of lung cancer. Chronic inflammation from infections and other conditions. Sometimes, lung cancer doesn't cause any presenting symptoms until the disease has developed to an advanced stage. In other cases, symptoms can be non-specific, and people may experience many symptoms together at the same time. If you experience one or more of the following symptoms, then you should go and talk to your doctor and get checked. A persistent cough which has lasted for 3 or more weeks. An existing long-term cough that has changed. Coughing up blood. Weight loss in a short period of time without any apparent reason. Loss of appetite. Breathing difficulties, including breathlessness. Wheezing or a hoarse voice. Fatigue and weakness. Chest or rib or shoulder pain. Bone pain. Thickening on the skin of the fingertips, leading to an abnormal rounded appearance, also known as finger clubbing. Intermittent fever that lasts for several weeks. Remember, anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. The earlier the disease is found, the better the outcome. Don't wait, get checked.
Hi everybody, it is my great pleasure to welcome you today to the launch of our Get Checked campaign, and thank you all so very much for joining us. Next slide please, Alfonso. So here is an overview of today's agenda. So we've just opened our event with our Get Checked video campaign. I will now give a little bit of information around the campaign, some background, and some information related to the messaging. We're then going to have a talk from Lavinia McGee on the impact of COVID-19 on lung cancer diagnosis. We're then going to have 2 videos from Meryl and Florence giving an overview of their experiences. And then I will end with a little bit of further information about the campaign, the toolkit, how you can spread the word about the campaign, and our call to action. And then we will close the event. Next slide, please, Alfonso. We would like to thank ELF, the European Lung Foundation, the European Respiratory Society, and the European Patients Forum for endorsing our Get Checked campaign. Your support is very welcome and appreciated. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So a number of people may wonder why we need a lung cancer awareness campaign. So in the next few slides, I just want to give a little bit of background as to why we think an awareness campaign is something that is really critically important. If we look at the numbers around lung cancer, We know that lung cancer is responsible for the largest number of cancer-related deaths in Europe. So it's second in terms of incidence, but it's first in terms of mortality. And this is some information here from Globocan, and I hope you can see the numbers that are there. And this just shows you a reflection of European incidence and mortality. So this is one reason why we feel we need an awareness campaign. Next slide, please, Alfonso. We also need an awareness campaign because there's a need for earlier diagnosis. And from that, we know this sooner the disease is diagnosed, the better the outcomes can be. And I'm very sorry, Alfonso, your screen has gone blank on my side. Thank you very much. And here I have shared some information from a Lung Cancer Europe report that we published probably about 3 years or so ago now, where we asked about knowledge around potential symptoms of the disease. And from the data that was generated by our report, we found that about 7 in every 10 people really did not have any knowledge around potential symptoms that were linked with lung cancer. And this was covering not at all or only a slight knowledge of the symptoms. So this again further underscores the importance we feel of this awareness campaign. And we had hoped to launch this last year. However, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we held off to launch our campaign this year instead. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So why do we need to increase awareness around symptoms? Well, it's not only data that has been generated by Lucha, but data that has been generated by a lot of others, which has shown this lack of symptom awareness. It's a case of possibly not linking a symptom to a medical issue. It's possible that although a symptom is being experienced, people may not believe that the symptom is serious enough to go to their doctor. We've often heard from people living with lung cancer that they didn't feel that they should go to the doctor and maybe waste the doctor's time with something. We also know that there's an issue around normalizing symptoms. So take, for example, a cough. People may experience a cough for a prolonged period of time, but because they've experienced it over a long period of time, this symptom can become normalized, and then people are not identifying it as something that isn't normal. So you should not have a cough all of the time. We also know that some of the symptoms associated with lung cancer can be very non-specific, can be linked with other conditions, but they also can get lost in the context of other issues. So say, for example, if someone has chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, otherwise known as COPD, some of the symptoms can overlap and then they can get lost within that context of a pre-existing issue. We also know in areas of high social deprivation, there can be increased numbers of lung cancer cases, but also there are other sort of cultural or social issues that may be at play, or other issues that people are prioritizing above their own health. Of course, within the lung cancer community, a lot of our community have worried about blame, stigma, guilt, and shame associated with this disease. And for a lot of people, they feel this way about the disease, and then this can also impact on when they go to seek help or to get a symptom checked out. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has really impacted cancer care, not just in lung cancer, but across the board. And anecdotally, we've been hearing more and more people who may have been symptomatic for COVID-19 have had a negative COVID-19 test, but are still experiencing respiratory symptoms. And we would really advise you to go and get checked out if you've any worries or concerns. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So I'm going to just follow up now with showing you two of the main infographics associated with our campaign. One is around risk factors associated with the disease, and the slide after this will concentrate on symptoms and signs. So here you can see a number of the risk factors that could increase your risk of developing lung cancer. So as shared within our video, It can be a personal or family history of lung cancer, exposure to certain cancer-causing agents in the workplace. We know air pollution is something that is very significant and a big contributor to lung cancer risk. And then there's exposure to things such as radon or asbestos. And of course, commonly we know that someone with a history of smoking or those that are exposed to secondhand smoke can have an increased risk of developing this disease. Two other risk factors can be related to inflammation from other infections or conditions that impact the lungs, and also if you've had previous radiation therapy to your lungs. All of these are risk factors that can increase your risk of developing lung cancer. Next slide, please, Alfonso. And in this wheel, we're showing a lot of the symptoms that are associated with lung cancer. And again, as shared within our video, some people can experience one of these symptoms. They can experience a multitude of these symptoms. It really just depends. So these symptoms include coughing of blood, breathing difficulties or issues with breathlessness. So maybe you were able to do something previously and now you find that taking that walk, going up those stairs, you're now struggling a little bit, or you're noticing a difference in how your breathing or breathlessness is. Fatigue and weakness can also be associated, as can certain bone pain, such as shoulder, chest, or rib. A lot of people report wheezing or hoarseness. One of the kind of less common symptoms associated with lung cancer is this idea of finger clubbing, which is the thickening at the top where your fingernail is, around there, as you saw in the images in the video. Bone pain I've already described. And then others can have sometimes intermittent fever that can come and go for a period of weeks. Others might experience changes in their appetite, or they might experience rapid weight loss in a short period of time, but they have no apparent reason as to why they've lost the weight. And of course, as well, one of the biggest things is a persistent cough. A persistent cough, particularly that lasts 3 weeks or more, or if you have a pre-existing cough, a cough that has changed in some way. So this is a broad overview of some of the symptoms that can be associated with lung cancer. And it's very important, if you experience any of these, to go and get checked out. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So that's a very broad, brief overview of our Get Checked campaign. I'm going to go into greater detail towards the end of this launch with some of the materials and things that we have available. But I'd now like to pass over to Lavinia McGee, who's a nurse consultant in thoracic oncology and also a board member of Lung Cancer Europe, who is going to talk around the impact of COVID-19 on lung cancer diagnosis. Over to you, Lavinia.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon on the launch of our Get Checked campaign as part of LUCE. Thinking about really sort of the impact of COVID-19 on lung cancer diagnosis, looking back really at the time during the pandemic, working in the hospital, really at the coalface when the pandemic was happening, you could really gather a lot of views and see what was actually going on. And I think really one of the main reasons, because I'll show you some data to show that lung cancer referrals did dip during this time. I think one of the reasons really is perhaps the anxiety and concern that patients have regarding the burden they're placing on their healthcare system, worldwide, on all aspects of healthcare, let alone cancer, let alone lung cancer. So I think that had a huge impact really on referrals coming into the service. And many of you may wish to comment on that or have your own views. But really thinking of the disruption in particular to cancer service, there was a lot of staff redeployment during that time. So that's not just within the nursing and medical staff, but all staff within the hospital environment. They were redeployed as felt appropriate to the areas of need at that time. And that could be allied health professionals, from the clinical nurse specialist perspective. Patients, staff were redeployed, perhaps to the respiratory wards or to accident and emergency, wherever they had the skills and the expertise, where it was felt there was the greater need at the time. That's where they went to work. And obviously for some members of staff, they were unable to work in the hospital environment and started to work from home. And very productive they were working from home, doing a fantastic job regarding organising appointments, telephone consultations, in particular dealing with the anxieties that many patients and their loved ones had regarding the symptoms that were happening and whether or not they were due to COVID or cancer. So that was a particularly difficult time, and just supporting patients emotionally through the roller coaster that was there for everyone. Within Lung Cancer Nursing UK, we could see that there was actually, we did a survey, and 55% of those that responded to the survey did indeed say that they were either redeployed or not able to work at that time. So that's a huge proportion in particular of the nursing staff. Alphonse, I'm not sure I'm still on the same slide. There, thank you. They were indeed, working from home still was fantastic. A lot of services were also rescheduled or cancelled, in particular doing a biopsy or any investigations regarding radiology, and many treatments were either reviewed or cancelled. So this caused a lot of disruption to services. Also, there were fears, not only from staff, but from patients coming into the hospital. There is the risk of getting COVID. And that, even though they were being offered appointments and offered consultations, for a lot of them was a huge fear of coming into the hospital environment or to their local GP community practice. And this, the fear also, this would put an unnecessary burden on an overstretched service, just in case their symptoms weren't important enough or they weren't overly concerned. So these fears also reduced in a reduction of patients presenting. Another challenge during this time were looking at new ways of working. And obviously we all had to look at doing things differently and how best to do that safely for our patients. And we started carrying out virtual clinics by telephone. Some were able to do it by video conference, but where safe in a follow-up consultation, to do it virtually, but still keeping face-to-face investigations and appointments for new patients coming through with new symptoms of concern. Now, obviously, if we don't turn up in time with our new symptoms, this will have a negative impact on all our outcomes, whether short or long term. So whether it's related to your first treatment, and as we all know now, lung cancer can be very much a long-term condition. So maybe not presenting with your symptoms at your second or third line treatments because of concern will also have a huge impact on outcomes. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So thinking of the symptoms, Anne-Marie's alluded to it already. A lot of them are very similar between COVID and lung cancer, both being respiratory conditions. And we as professionals also found it quite difficult to tease out at what point you tip the balance to being concerned or not concerned for COVID or cancer. So this was generated, what's on the slide now, by a group of experts, lung clinical expert group from Roy Castle, with input from the British Thoracic Society and the British Thoracic Oncology Group. And it really very much did help, looking at the centre with the three main symptoms of cough, breathlessness and fatigue, and then teasing out, either going to the right or the left, as to whether the symptoms were more likely to be due to lung cancer or COVID. And I'll just let you have a look at that. That was really very beneficial for patients and clinicians in trying to tease out the difference. So again, if the cough and the breathlessness and fatigue is unexplained and persistent, going on for more than 4 weeks, then more likely due to be lung cancer, whereas if it's acute onset with other symptoms such as loss of taste and smell, more likely to be COVID related. And again, more information there as to signs and symptoms to expect for each of the conditions, but that did prove very useful. Next slide, please, Alfonso. I just want to show you here the dip. I know it's very difficult to see these figures from Cancer Research UK, but you can literally see the dip in referrals for lung cancer coming through the urgent 2-week wait service during the first pandemic. And that really was concerning because we do know that cancer doesn't wait. So when you see a dip in referrals coming through like that, it really is give us a lot of concern. And we know that about 40,000 fewer people started cancer treatment in 2020 in total across the UK. So obviously a huge concern. Next slide, please, Alfonso. And again, I'm just showing this slide to show that the difference in lung cancer registrations during the first lockdowns. That's looking at 2019 in blue line and 2020 in the red line. So you can just see quite a dip, and therefore the ongoing impact that will have for our patients and survival from lung cancer. Next slide, please. So really, what does the future hold, and what can we do to make things better? Well, we clearly want to improve on the 5-year survival figures for lung cancer, looking at what was achieved throughout Europe prior to the pandemic, but just how we can make that even better post-pandemic. And obviously, early diagnosis is key. Even thinking to the earliest diagnosis, screening is obviously essential in the world of lung cancer. But we also do have to think about the workforce and making sure that we have the right workforce at the right place at the right time to enable the best absolute service to be given for our lung cancer patients. Also making sure that we train and retain our staff, that we look after them, that we help them recover from the pandemic, and make sure that everything that's possible can be done to ensure that everyone is as well equipped and prepared to help the lung cancer community as possible. So there's a lot of rebuilding to do and recovering, but we are getting there. And with the help of all of you as Luce members, we can absolutely achieve this. But I think we just have to bear in mind all the time that cancer does not wait. Pandemic or no pandemic, it does not wait. And therefore, the importance of this campaign and the importance of encouraging everyone to get checked should they have any of the symptoms that the campaign shows and that Anne-Marie went through, it is absolutely essential for our patients and their outcomes and survival. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lavinia, for that great overview. And we can only hope that now, as the pandemic starts to change and hopefully not as many people are impacted by COVID-19, that we'll see a return to, healthcare services. We'll see that healthcare services can deal with backlogs in cases. So I think we're all keeping our fingers and toes crossed that things return to our, I guess, new normal at this point in time.
Indeed.
So thank you so much for that, Lavinia.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda is we are going to have Meryl and Florence, who have very kindly recorded videos sharing their personal experiences with lung cancer diagnosis. So I'll just ask Alfonso now if he can play those for us. Thank you, Alfonso.
My name is Merel Henning. I'm 53 years old, mother of 2 teenagers, wife, historian, and I love to do sports. Before I got my children, I ran marathons, and now I'm a frequent visitor of the gym. But I'm also a lung cancer patient, diagnosed at age 46, 7 years ago. And to do a bit of research myself, I asked some friends at random if they knew which symptoms are associated with lung cancer. I oftentimes got the answer, I don't know. Although they have experienced my cancer journey, they couldn't reproduce any symptom. And if you don't know these symptoms, but you experience them, it is difficult to act well and to act well quickly. And if lung cancer is detected early, you get a way better chance of survival. In the same conversation, I asked my friends if they knew any risk factors associated with lung cancer. They only mentioned smoking and later on asbestos. Lung cancer is the biggest cancer killer worldwide. 1 in 5 of all cancer deaths are due to lung cancer. So raising awareness, screening, early detection and access to treatment and care remain essential to improve outcomes. Public health campaigns aimed towards smoking cessation are extremely important, but the message that lung cancer is preventable creates barriers to diagnosis as well to care. Other risk factors should be taken in account as well. If people don't smoke, doesn't secure them from not getting lung cancer. Everybody with lungs can get lung cancer. My cancer journey started in summer of 2014. I was tired and felt awful. Was very busy at work, so I worked a lot of overtime. And I thought it was stress. A vacation in the southern of France was all I needed. But I couldn't bike the mountains in France. I was out of breath and exhausted. I had to train harder. In October, still tired, with a persistent cough, I went to my GP. An excellent GP because he sent me for an X-ray to the hospital. Pneumonia, antibiotics didn't work. Another antibiotics, another X-ray, change in image, so an appointment with a pulmonologist. It only took 3 weeks from my first appointment with my GP till my diagnosis. Lung cancer, stage 4, deadly. The message was devastating. I have the ROS1 fusion, and luckily there are some treatment options for me. And now, after 7 years, I'm still alive, and it's all thanks to research. The development in lung cancer research has evolved, but the sword of Damocles is still hanging above my head. So I have 2 messages. Everybody with lungs can get lung cancer, and even if you have a non-curable lung cancer, there are treatment options. So either way, get checked if you experience any symptoms.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be with you here this afternoon at the occasion of the launch of the Lung Cancer Awareness Campaign for this month of November. My name is Florence. I'm from Belgium. I am 51 years old now, and I am a diplomat by profession. I was diagnosed with lung cancer, a very rare type of lung cancer, at the age of 48, and I was diagnosed with a cancer with a specific genetic translocation called ALK positive. At that time, I have to say that I was coming back from several years of posting abroad in very stressing country and post-war countries, and so I was very tired. Then I went to a few doctors, clinics, and I was told that I had a burnout, that I was just tired of all this year of working too much. They did several tests. I had done cancer exam, a general one, just to see. 1 year before it was just a routine one, but everything was okay, so no one was suspecting anything until this state of very big fatigue remained for several months. Then I started having some heart problem. Then I had a face paralysis, and then the doctor said, oh, something really serious is going on. So I did end up in emergency, and they did an MRI, and they found that I had the brain met. So it meant that I was already at the stage 4 of this very rare cancer at that time. My luck is that this type of cancer can benefit now from very new targeted therapies that have been developed in the last 10 years. So I've been taking targeted therapy for the last 2 years, and my condition has been stable. So I just want to underline here that how important it is not only to check when you have symptoms, and the symptoms are not always the one we could think like coughing. Me, it was just a general fatigue, maybe some back pain, but even not more than anyone else at my age. And also what the molecular testing is also very important, because this type of rare cancer doesn't react well to chemotherapy or immunotherapy. So when you find that you have this type of, without molecular testing, you can just not you cannot just benefit of this targeted therapy that are really the medicine that allow us to live a normal life and for several years. What I have to say is that having such a diagnosis at 48 years old, when you have been healthy, active, without any cancer history before or in your family, and especially when you have never smoked, is kind of a trauma, I have to say. And it's a trauma because also they find it at the stage 4. So when it's already metastasized in your body. So my reaction was, oh, I only have a few months to live, because I didn't know that science had been doing all this advancement and that we could live with a metastasized cancer for several years. And at this point, when you have a family, when you were, I was kind of not the head of the family, but as I'm a diplomat, we were all moving together, and my family was adapting. It's really a shock. So I just thought I'm gonna die in a few months, and after a while I just realized that I could live with this medicine. I could live well. Of course there are side effects, but then you have to change your type of living, to change your nutrition, to do a lot of exercise, to find a way to manage these side effects. But then you could live. And also something I found important is to connect with other patients, to be able to support each other, to connect with the doctors, also to make this rare cancer known, in order to be stronger together, and in order to benefit from the latest advancement from science. I mean, I'm not going to go into the more details today, but I wish you a very active month for lung cancer awareness, because I think it's a very stigmatized cancer. When I dare to tell that I have a lung cancer, people ask me, oh, and yes, but you were smoking quite a lot. No, I have never smoked in my life. So I think that one out of five people who have lung cancer have never smoked in their life, and there are other risk factors like pollution, like radiation, like passive smoke. So it's very important not only to take care about this risk factor, but also to get checked on time. With science, I hope to live a long time, and I really thank Lung Cancer Europe for the very important work. Together we will be stronger.
So I would just like to reiterate our thanks to both Meryl and Florence for sharing their stories, and as you can tell, so impactful and very important points that are made by both of them. One around the advancements that have been made in lung cancer, the new treatment options. I think we need to vocalize this more because sometimes there's a traditional nihilistic attitude towards the disease. So it's very, very important to get the message out there that lung cancer now is a very different disease than what people traditionally assume that the disease is, or what the outcomes associated with the disease are. And also in terms of what Florence has said, it's also very important to understand that there are other risk factors in developing this disease. It's not just about those that have a smoking history. And of course, as well, something I forgot to mention at the very beginning, November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. So please do share information, share resources, network together, and really spread the word about lung cancer during Lung Cancer Awareness Month. So now it falls to me to talk a little bit more about the campaign and also the toolkit we have associated with the campaign, and I'm just going to run through that now. And before I get into that, I just want to say there is an opportunity, if you have any questions or queries, that you can put them into the chat box, and if we have time at the end, we will try to get through a couple of questions. Of course, if there is any queries or you want some further information associated with the campaign, please do reach out and get in touch with us after this event. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So our Get Checked toolkit has a number of different things and a number of different items within it. And hopefully there's something there that people feel that they can use for either their situation, their region, their country, or whatever it might be. So we have 2 posters. I've given an example of one here with the message, anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. We also have a trifold leaflet. This also covers the signs and symptoms, the risk factors, and also some general information about lung cancer itself. Next slide, please, Alfonso. The infographics I've already gone through in my initial presentation, but really these 2 infographics are really key to the campaign and central to it, covering both risk factors and also the signs and symptoms associated with the disease. Next slide, please, Alfonso. We also have an extensive social media toolkit, and these toolkits are suitable for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They have both static pictures and some animated stories. And basically the images and the sort of text associated with these cover some of the main signs and symptoms of the disease, and also some of the risk factors associated with the disease. So here, for example, the message is around a cough, and it's anyone with lungs can get lung cancer, which is really a tagline that's associated with the campaign, and it is in the form of questions. So did you know that experiencing a cough for greater than 3 weeks or a change in an existing cough might be a sign of lung cancer? And of course, then we have the logo associated with the campaign. Don't wait, get checked. The earlier the disease is found, the better the outcome. Next slide, please, Alfonso. We also have a video, and with the video, we have a number of sort of different variations of it. We have some smaller, shorter clips, and then we have some longer clips. So again, you can pick and choose as to what suits you best if you want to share the video associated with it. We also have our Get Checked website, which is getchecked.eu, and under this you will find the different toolkits, different items in our toolkits. You'll find information about Lucha itself. You'll find information about our members. You'll also find translations associated with this campaign. And of course, there is also the opportunity to contact us through this website as well. Next slide, please, Alfonso. And I'm not going to attempt these languages because I will undoubtedly not get it correct. But I think one of the very important things from our campaign this year is that we do have our materials in 12 different languages. So we have them in Dutch, English, Finnish, French, German, Greek, Hebrew, Hungarian, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, and Spanish. So if in your country you want to share maybe something to do with the poster, or you want to share maybe some of the very specific risk factors or symptoms associated with the disease, those will be in the social media toolkits that you can download and share in your own language. The little sort of trifold information leaflet as well, that is also available in these languages too. And of course, you know, this is our first year launching a campaign such as this. So it is really very important, if you have any feedback on the campaign, any queries or questions, to get in touch with us, because obviously what we would really like to do with this campaign is this year is a starting point, and we want to build on that year on year. And we also want to ensure that we increase the number of European languages in which we can offer our campaign materials in as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us, get in touch, and help spread the word in whichever way is most appropriate to you and to your region. Next slide, please, Alfonso. So as part of our toolkit, we do have some information as well as some ideas as how you can share things related to this campaign. So of course, social media is something that is used by an awful lot of people, can have a very good reach and engagement. So you could post some of these messages on your social media. You could use maybe your own personal handle, or you could use your organization handle as well. You could use some of the images that are supplied in the toolkits. You could use some of the videos. Again, there's different lengths and variation of the video. And you could also link in your own message to this campaign as well. And then you could attach the appropriate or the image that best fits the message you want to get across. So for example, if you wanted to talk about coughing, you could attach the little infographic we have in relation to coughing. Of course, if you feel that there's another sign or symptom that you would like to cover as part of that, please do share that, but add a hashtag to the campaign as well, because then we'll know that we should broaden things out for the next iteration of this campaign. So of course, when we talk about social media, we're going to talk about hashtags. So there's quite a number of hashtags on social media around lung cancer in general. So here you can see hashtag LCAM, which stands for Lung Cancer Awareness Month. For this campaign, we've the hashtag Get Checked. And then for a lot of you that would be familiar with Lung Cancer Europe, you know one of the taglines associated with the organization is Many Faces, One Voice. So that hashtag can be included as well. And for the lung cancer social media community, the hashtag there is LCSM. So you may also have regional tags or tags in your own language. So please do also include them within your messaging, and please feel free to tag Lung Cancer Europe on your posts as well, because really what we want to try and do is increase our engagement, increase the awareness, and really get the message to as many people as we possibly can. Also, one of the things that we would ask for during the month of of November is to post frequently, because obviously there are a number of different messages around symptoms, around risk factors. So maybe you might be able to maybe share something maybe once, twice a week to cover as much as possible. However, it is completely up to you as to how you use social media and how you share the information with this campaign on those channels. We would just ask for you to engage and be part of the campaign. The materials that we have as part of our toolkit, all of those are printer friendly. So if you would prefer to maybe print out some leaflets or the posters, maybe the infographics, please feel free to do this. So you could maybe print them out, and then you could go to maybe your local health centre or hospital. Maybe you would like to go to your local primary healthcare centre, local community pharmacist, whatever it might be. And maybe you could approach them and ask them if they would allow you to put up a poster or a leaflet or something like that that's related to the campaign. In terms of media, some members may wish to contact local media, whether this is television or radio or printed media, such as, I guess I'm saying old school newspapers, but of course for a lot of people this is the main way in which they find out information as well, and we can't forget that. We can't just assume that social media is going to be something that everyone wants to use. Some people prefer more traditional means as well. So if you have maybe contacts within your local media in whatever form that might take, maybe you could reach out to them and see if they would share a message or maybe include some information in a local newsletter, local paper, whatever it might be. Of course, as it is Lung Cancer Awareness Month, I know a number of our members are holding events during this month. So perhaps if you have some time free within that event or within your agenda, maybe you can devote a couple of minutes to sharing some information about this campaign as well. So this is just a broad overview on sharing of the information, but of course, as I said previously, whatever you feel works best for you, your organisation and the region that you live in. The most important thing is to get the message out and increase the awareness around lung cancer symptoms and side effects, and also risk factors associated with the disease. Next slide, please, Alfonso. And now, after that overview, I do have a number of thank yous that I would like to have, and I'd like to acknowledge a lot of different people who helped get this campaign to where it is. So the Lucha board have been incredibly lucky to have an amazing working group associated with this campaign. So huge thanks to Elena, Leslie, Paula, Regine, and Stefania for their huge contributions in the development of this campaign. We'd also like to thank Greg Carpanti, who also reviewed our materials. Greg is a medical oncologist based here in Ireland. Next slide, please, Alfonso. We also would like to have a huge thank you to everybody who contributed to translational assistance. So although we had professional translations of our campaign materials undertaken, we felt it was very, very important to go to our local members, get them to review the translations to make absolutely sure that we were hitting everything, hitting the nail on the head, as they say. So a huge thanks to the group of individuals given on this slide for their time, their patience, and their amazing feedback, which has really helped ensure that our translations are the best that they can be. Next slide, please, Alfonso. And of course, we also want to say a huge shout out to all of our industry partners whose support has made this campaign and the translations associated with it possible. So a huge shout out to all of those for their support in making this campaign a reality and helping Lucha in general with our action plans and the different educational and awareness events we undertake as an organisation. Next slide, please, Alfonso. Yes, so that is us at an end of our overview of our acknowledgement of all the people that contributed to this campaign. I would also like to say huge thanks to Alfonso, who's in mission control as part of today's event. He was our project manager for this campaign and has done Trojan work. So huge thanks to you too, Alfonso. And also huge thanks to Maeve O'Sullivan, our executive officer, who has also made a massive contribution to this campaign. So the old saying goes, it really does take a village. And for something like this, it really does take a European village. So huge thanks to absolutely everyone. So now that we have a couple of minutes left, I'm going to take a question or two. So Lavinia, if I could ask you to maybe put on your camera. I can't see you on my screen, so maybe you have your camera on already, so apologies. So a general question that has come in for you, Lavinia, is what is the importance of getting an earlier diagnosis? What is the impact of an earlier diagnosis when it comes to lung cancer?
Well, the importance of an early diagnosis is really whether or not the treatment you will receive will be considered radical or palliative in intent. So if you have an early diagnosis for your lung cancer, if it's small, if the tumour is small and has not spread to lymph nodes or metastatic disease to other organs, we can treat it radically. And the radical treatments are just getting better and better all the time. The surgical techniques have improved, the anesthetic techniques, looking at keyhole surgery, video-assisted operations, making sure that the operation is as minimal as it can be, let alone the radical radiotherapy treatments that are now on offer, radical chemoradiotherapy. Advances are being made all the time. Sometimes I think that's maybe not promoted quite as much as sort of the long-term palliative treatments, which of course there are, and it's very exciting and wonderful. But the earlier you are diagnosed, the more chance you have of having a much better outcome. And also it enables us really, preparing you for your treatment to make sure you're in the best possible physical and psychological state for your surgery. If the disease is not spread and it is an early diagnosis. So we can perhaps focus on exercise, on prehabilitation, so make sure you're as fit as you can be, looking at your nutrition, looking at your diet, and just many other ways that we can improve what we term your performance status. So the fitter you are for any of your treatments, the better. And we do know that in lung cancer, size does matter. So those few millimeters, let alone centimeters, to get a diagnosis early really does improve your outcomes from treatment, whether it's one line of treatment or multiple lines of treatment. So really, the importance of an early diagnosis cannot be stressed enough, and just making sure in your country and your organization, where is the best way to go to get you into the pathway for your diagnosis. Okay, so it's essential.
Thank you, Lavinia. Yeah, and I mean, it makes absolute sense. If someone is experiencing something that is not quite normal, whether it's something related to any of the symptoms we've described here today, but really if there's anything out of the ordinary, that is so important to get checked out.
On a positive note, we are now seeing referrals coming through. The numbers are definitely increasing again. So obviously we don't want a diagnosis for lung cancer for anyone, but it's really good to see those that are coming through. And just to reassure that we know that perhaps a quarter to a third of the referrals we receive in our practice, they won't have lung cancer. They may have another condition, which may or may not require treatment, such as infection. So it's just good to get checked, because even though you don't have lung cancer, you may have another lung condition that maybe something needs to be done about or not. But we have a saying, tissue is the issue. So you need to present and get diagnosed one way or the other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lavinia, and a very good point, because as you say, you know, it may not be lung cancer, it could be something else, it could be something like COPD that we've mentioned, and
It's
that's
something
so
that
important.
is treatable.
Yes, so, you know, so important to get an accurate diagnosis, whatever that might be.
Yes.
So very, very important. A question came in around education. So what else can we do outside of education? So I think for me, education and awareness of lung cancer symptoms and risk factors is critical to improve public knowledge around the disease, because we know lung cancer is something that's not on a lot of people's radar, and we really need to get it there on people's radar and to act as quickly as they can for all of the reasons we've discussed here today. But of course, one of the other things that we're all thinking about is lung cancer screening. So, I mean, really, we also need to increase the voice and the awareness around lung cancer screening, and to really try and come together at a European level to get a very strong voice around the implementation of lung cancer screening, because we know from the data that is out there now from different trials is that lung cancer screening saves lives too. So I think we've a lot to do around awareness and education, but we also have things to do when it comes to the implementation of lung cancer screening as well. So with that, again, we have a couple of minutes left. So I know I've said thank you a lot, but I'd like to say a huge thank you again to everyone for joining us today, being part of our launch event. We really look forward to seeing everybody's posts and engagement around this campaign. And we also are really looking forward to building on this campaign year on year with all of our partners, all of our members, and obviously increasing the reach of this campaign across Europe as well. Because really something that can be done at a European level, I think, is going to have a massive, massive impact for the lung cancer community. So with that, we're going to end this launch event with a shorter version now of our video. And again, huge thanks to everyone for joining this and marking the first day of Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
Advancement in lung cancer research has provided greater insights into the disease, allowing for the development of new treatments, which can provide improved outcomes for people living with lung cancer. Despite this, lung cancer remains amongst the highest contributor to cancer-related deaths in Europe, claiming almost 1 in every 5 of all cancer-related deaths. Remember, anyone with lungs can get lung cancer. The earlier the disease is found, the better the outcome. Don't wait, get checked.